You didn't miss anything. It's not on the internet. It's not on the internet. It's not on the internet. Better like this. Okay. Good evening. Welcome everyone. This week we are on Parsha's Pinchas. Parsha's Pinchas you can find in your Chumashim on page 876. There is the story which continues from last week when Pinchas acted zealously, and this week is being rewarded for his zealousness. And then the Torah goes on, and this week's Parsha, which is basically chapter 26, you see, it's a long chapter, 65 verses. The main majority of this chapter is names. It's almost as if the Torah is not almost, it is actually taking yet a census again, recounting them. This time they are being counted according to their families. Also, the ones who are being counted are the males from the age 20 and upward. They are being counted at a time which we are at the 40th year since the Exodus. So really they are standing now just about to enter the land of Israel. What happened before this final census was yet another epidemic, another crisis where many people died in the desert. About 24,000 of them is what we read in the end of last week's Parsha. And now that all those people died, as Rashi brings the example, the parable explained in the Medrash of a shepherd, which after his sheep were attacked by wolves, now when he brings them back and he counts them, to see how many of them were left. But mainly, as Rashi also brings, the original counting took place, the original census was when Moshe took them out of Egypt. That was the first time the Jews were counted in the book of Exodus. Now Moshe is about to finish his job. In this week's Parsha, he's actually being told to appoint a successor for him. So in this week's Parsha, being that it discusses the end of his life, is where the census is being taken again. You gave it to me in accounting when I got the position as leader. Now that I'm about to finish the position as a leader, let's do the counting again. And they are being counted. All of them are being counted. All the families are being counted. Very interestingly, every family name has a Hey, the letter Hey, and the letter Yud in their family. Ha Paluhi, Ha Karmi, Ha Chanochi, Ha Areli. You see there's a Hey in which initials, the initial letter before the family name, and there is a Yud in the end, which again here, as the sages tell us, and Rashi also records it, is that there were some people who claimed questioning the legitimacy of their family status, that perhaps there was some mix. And here is where God ensured that each family of the tribes is holy and pure by placing part of his own name. The letter Hey and Yud is two letters of Hashem's holy name. So in the front of each family, he put a letter Hey, and in the back, he put the letter Yud to testify that these families are pure and holy and legitimate and valid, and no one should question their validity. The counting goes on, and it ends up on the bottom of page 882. The Torah says, Eile Pkudei Bnei Israel. These are the countings of the sons of Israel. 600,000 va-elef. 601,000. 730. Okay, counting is taking place. What happens now? We have all the 20-year-old men. Some of them are head of families, were counted. They are about to finish the 40-year journey on the desert. And they are about to enter the holy land of Eretz Israel. So now we got to talk business. What do you mean to talk business? No, before the army is one thing. The land. They're going into a land. There is 600,000 men. There is a lot of families. There are 12 tribes. There is the holy site around the temple, Jerusalem. There is the expensive real estate in Tel Aviv and in Haifa. There is the Galilee. Some like fresh air, some like holiness, some like commercial, some like residential, some like suburb. Everybody likes different things, and there is only one piece of land, and there are 12 tribes. So God introduces on page 884 the order how the land is going to be divided. And clearly, there was a very interesting combination of so-called a logical distribution plus a unnatural distribution. The natural was that the quantity of the land will really depend of how large your family is. More people need more land. A tribe which has less people is probably going to be happier with a smaller piece of land. But then there's also the question, where and what? And for that, God tells Moses to use the method of a raffle, of a lot, goral. As you see on verse 54 and 55, Hashem speaks to Moshe, to thus shall the land be divided as an inheritance according to the number of names, meaning the names that was just mentioned before. For the numerous one, you shall increase in its inheritance. For the fewer one, you shall lessen its inheritance. Each one according to his count shall his inheritance be given. Only by lot shall the land be divided. According to the names of their father's tribe shall they inherit. Basically, there was two baskets. In one basket, there was the 12 names of the 12 tribes. And in the other basket, there was the land of Israel divided into 12 sections. And that's how it worked. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Tel Aviv, Haifa, Kfar Chabad, Tzfat. Everybody gets according to its name.
If it was divided by lots that way, but the more popular family,
More populated.
got more. How did they readjust the land so that there would be more land for those?
Yeah, famous question. No, what's the answer for that?
That's why I'm asking the question.
I'm sure you saw the answer too, no?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't? Anybody knows the answer for David's question? The question was, if it was according to Lot, if the lot was divided according to raffle, so what happens and how did they coincide with the population of the family? Meaning, let's say, if someone was getting Tel Aviv, and the name for Tel Aviv came up the shape of the tribe of Dan, right? And let's say that Dan had less people than Zvulun. So how would you divide it? How would he get? Would he get a smaller piece of Tel Aviv, or he would get like what was the section? How did the section fit with the population of the family? That's his question.
It worked out with the two.
No, the raffle was who gets what part in the land, but the part itself, who made sure that? How did we make sure that the part fits the amount of family that this family has?
Divine intervention. Hashem knew who needed what.
It's called Ruach HaKodesh. The very Rashi says even that the whole idea of Allah. In other words, the question is the opposite. Why did they need to measure, so to speak, according to the families, if you're using the principle of lots? Because the idea of a lot is really divine inspiration. You get what you deserve. So the question is the opposite. So this is a part of the so-called of the interesting way the way Israel was divided, which in one end seemingly you involve yourself in natural efforts, but at the same time your natural effort is put aside, and what is being provided, which is taking place, is the divine connection. It's like almost you have to pretend that you are physically doing something, but really it's not going to make a difference. But it's a concept which exists a lot in Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, which talks of the Ramban brings that sometimes to evoke divine inspiration, you have to act out something physically, not necessarily that is, like Jacob. His father Isaac wanted to bless them. He asked for a goat. He asked for meat. What does a blessing have to do with a good dinner? I mean, you want supper, you're hungry, say I want supper. You want to bless me, say you want to bless me. What are you mixing borscht with kartoffel? Like, what's the connection between I want to bless you, but for that you have to put up a table for me? I mean, that's a blessing word. So Nachmanides says, and in other places, it's a famous concept which is being discussed, that prophets and in general spirituality that's a God likes you to play the game. He wants you to do something which, as if you're physically satisfied, and then you can feel in the right mood to give blessings. Really, it doesn't have to do with that, but it still has to do with that. So here too, apparently, there was a similar situation. I want to move on. There's the land is being divided, and there's the old story that the land is being divided. We all know that later it took them 14 years to divide the land. 14 years. 7 years to conquer it, and 7 years to divide it. Okay. This happens. We have a story. And the story which we want to discuss tonight is on page 886. There is a group of sisters. Women's rights hashtag. Batikravno. Bnoi Slavchad. The daughters of Slavchad. And the Torah tells us who is Slavchad. the son of Chefer. Who is Chefer? The son of Gilad. Who is Gilad? The son of Machir. Who is Machir? Son of Menashe. Who is Menashe? The son of Joseph. So we're mentioning all the names to get to know even who the great-great-grandfather was. Yosef. Obviously, when you see Menashe, you already know that Menashe's father was Yosef. No, the Torah specifically mentions Yosef. And we're going to see in a moment why. Who are those girls? They have a name? The Torah says yes, they have a name. One girl, her name was Machla. Second girl, her name was Noah. Third girl, her name was Chagla. Fourth girl, her name was Milcah. And the fifth girl, his name is Sirza. These 5 girls are at least 40 years old, because this is the 40th year since they left Egypt. And their father, Tzlafchad, died either the first year when they left Egypt, according to the opinion that he was the one who was chopping the wood in the desert and he was sentenced to the stoning punishment, or he passed away the second year, according to the second opinion, that he was from the people that after the story of the spies, tried to push their way to go up to Israel regardless, called the Ma'apilim. You never heard it? Okay. I didn't make it up, I promise you. Okay. It's in the Gemara, and I believe it's in Rashi, and it's in many, many places. So these 5 girls are 40 years old, never got married. Never got married. I saw a very, very interesting insight. Why didn't they get married? I always thought they didn't get married because they didn't have a father to marry them, so they didn't get married. They were, no support. But they also didn't get married according to a commentary I saw, I believe the Khatam Sofer. Someone says that they didn't get married because they wanted to introduce this idea, which is now going to be introduced, that could have only take place once they are not married. What was the idea? Says verse 2. These girls, first of all, walked into the study hall. As the Torah says, they stood before Moses, before Elazar the Kohen. You remember? Aaron already died last week. So now they are, who is the Kohen? Who took over the priesthood after Aaron? Elazar, his son. He is the high priest. And before the leaders of the entire assembly, at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Okay, so everybody is there, all the great rabbis, the Rebbe, Reb Moshe, the Kohen Gadol, Reb Elazar, everybody is there, and 5 girls march in with a complaint. What do they say? Avinu meis b'midbar. Our father died in the wilderness. But vehu lo hoya b'toicho eido anu yodim al Hashem be'adas koirach. But he was not among the assembly that was gathering against Hashem in the assembly of Korach, which we have learned a few weeks ago. The group who got up to fight Moshe's leadership. Ki becheto imeis. He died according to his own sin. He had a personal sin, and like I mentioned before, what was the 2 opinions? One is Rabbi Akiva, that he was the wood chopper. According to Rab Shimon, he was from the ones who tried to make their way to Israel. Also, becheto imeis, he died on his own sin, meaning he did not try to join with others in his sin. He was a private person, quiet person. He did something which caused them to die. Nothing to do with the punishment that God gave for all those who caused trouble to the youth in the desert. But he did not have any sons. We are his only daughters. As we just read, how is the land going to be divided? The land is going to be divided to the tribes and by the fathers of the tribes. Meaning to say that when you have a family and you have sons and daughters, there's a father and mother and sons and daughters, they are going to receive a share in the tribal part belonging to the father's side of the family, not to the mother's side. Why not to the mother's side? Because in general there is the idea that the mother can always get married to somebody else from a different tribe. And once she gets married to another child of another person of a different tribe, that mother is, if she would inherit a share in the land, she would take with her that part from one tribe and now transporting it to another tribe. And this is going to create a major confusion and also loss to the tribes by having the girls moving out to other communities, by marrying to other tribal male, and by that losing out. And in general, girls were not meant to inherit according to Torah law originally, being that Judaism is very strong in the belief that the woman is going to be taken care of by her husband. That is the ketubah contract. When a person gets married, which is basically saying there is now a man who is going to take care of her. And since women are going to be taken care by their husbands, therefore they did not need to inherit from their parents' belongings. What are you going to do with it? These boys need something to live on. They have to support their families. But you're not going to support your family anyway. You have someone to support you. So they are not getting a share in the land. So they come to Moses and they with a big demand. What do they say? They say one thing. Look on verse 4. Lama Yigora Shem Ovinu Mitoich Mishpachte. Why shall the name of our father be omitted from among his family? Because he had no sons. Basically, they're saying there is no sons. Our father was from the people who left Egypt. Everyone who left Egypt was promised. You remember, there was four terms of redemption. I will take you out of Egypt. I will redeem you. I will rescue you. And what else did it say? I'm going to bring you to the land that I promised to your ancestors. And in that land, you're going to inherit. You're going to live in that land. So anyone who left Egypt became a candidate to receive a share in the land of Israel. Being that our father Tzlafchad was one of those who were experiencing the exodus from Egypt, he was there. So therefore, he deserves a piece of the land. And if he's not going to get a piece of the land because he has no sons who can inherit them, then our father's name is going to be totally, entirely forgotten and dismissed. That's not right. Give us, they said. Give us an inheritance among the brothers of our father. Yes? What's going on over here? Since when do we see such a thing? Moshe presenting the law. This is what God told them, the law of inheritance. And whoever did we see that people should get up and say, why? We want to have a different law. It doesn't make any sense. Even chutzpah has its limitations, has its measurements. Did you ever saw any of the laws that Moshe presents to the Jewish people for almost 40 years? On which basis, on which right comes this group of girls and asking to change the law? And Rashi says, oh, they loved Israel. And because they loved Israel, therefore they deserved to change the law based on their request. I'm not so sure they loved Israel. Maybe they just wanted a proper home in a future land. How is Rashi so convinced that their motivation was because they loved Israel? I don't know. They are moving into a land. They are not married. They are 40 years old. Ich weiß nicht how attracted they were, and what other qualities they had that it's going to be easy for them to find a shidduch in Israel. I don't know. Maybe they were, maybe they're not. I don't know. But the first thing you do is trying to protect yourself. Security. So what do? You say, give me a share in the land. Makes sense. So if that's the case, then it's not necessarily motivated by religious aspiration or by spiritual greatness, we love Israel and this. No, if it would be Uganda, maybe it would be the same. Happens to be, it's Israel. Azerbaijan, you would also probably ask for a share. Practical. No. But what happens is even more surprising. Moshe, for some reason, who was taught the halacha in such a case, forgot. Not that he was never taught. Rashi says, Nis'alma mimenu halacha, meaning the halacha that he was taught somehow left him. He forgot what he had learned. And he tells them, I'm going to talk to the boss. And it says on verse 5, Vayakriv Moshe's mishpaton, Moshe brought their claim before Hashem. No, obviously when your wife, the woman wants something, you have to be smart and do what? And give in to them. There is the foolish husband who tries to argue and later ends up giving in. And then there's the smart husband. Instead of arguing, I'm anyway going to have to give in, so let me give in now already. You don't fight, right? Either way, they get what they want, right? Yes or no? If they get what they want, so what are you fighting? What are you arguing? Just give it to them. But anyway, Moshe brings it before God, and here is where God says those powerful words. Cain, Noi, Slofchot, Doivra, the daughters of Slofchot speak properly. They are right. And the Torah introduces us the laws of inheritance. There's a whole chapter in Talmud, the end of Tractate Rabbi Basra, which deals with the laws of inheritance. And the source and the biblical discussion for that chapter of Talmud is the following 5-6 verses. How does inheritance work? But basically the message is, if there are no sons, it goes to the daughter. They are right. And the daughters of Tzlafchot were given a share in the land just because they asked. And the entire story of the laws of inheritance is being derived from who? From the story of this week's Parsha, the story of Tzlafchot's daughter.
So what would happen if those daughters would get married to somebody else?
Oh, so it said later you have to wait for next week's Parsha. You know what it says in next week's Parsha?
Married from their own tribe.
Exactly. They were told that they should only marry from their own tribe.
But still,
And once they get married to another tribe, look at the end of this part, look on page 934. Yes, or 935. No, actually, one page earlier, 932 in the bottom. They can marry anybody they like, but it has to be specifically from their father's tribe. Yeah?
Why not just do the marriage thing and forgive the whole inheritance thing?
What is that?
Why not just, tell them they need to get married if they want to be able to get the land?
Whose land?
Of husbands.
But obviously if they would have been married, there wouldn't be any complaints, but they are not married.
So why not the solution being, go get married?
There would have been a good solution, but maybe not an easy one.
They were women's livers.
But doesn't that,
It's not an easy solution. They weren't the only ones not married. There were people who were not married. Not only today there are people not married. There were people then who also were not married. Not everybody was married. When you stick 5 girls together, very difficult to leave that knot. Also, it's very hard to find them a right shidduch. I know a story, I don't know, that's what I heard. That once there was a rabbi in the Bronx, actually, and he came to I think it was the previous Lubavitch Rebbe came to America, and he came to the Rebbe and he says, I have 3 daughters, and it's difficult for me to find a shidduch for them. And the Rebbe says, how would the boys know about your 3 daughters? So he says, actually, they come to my house. The boys in the yeshiva come over to my house, and they study with me. So the Rebbe said, so hang up pictures of your daughters on the wall, so they're going to know that you have daughters. Goes by a while, and the guy comes back and says, Rebbe, it doesn't work. I don't have any bucher, any serious candidate. The Rebbe said, what did you do? He said, I put up 3 pictures. I said, no, Rebbe, 3 pictures. You're confusing everybody. Put up 1 picture. One at a time. You put up 3 pictures. They look at here, maybe this one, maybe that one, and they end up moving away. 1 picture. This is what I got. Want to become my son-in-law? Take a look. 5, they call it groupies. They group up a group of 5 ladies from the Yosefites. I mean, probably it wasn't so. Actually, you want to say something, David?
Yes.
Yeah.
if the daughters marry somebody within their own tribe, they get a portion of the land, and their husband inherits a portion of the land, then that family really has more than one portion of land. What happens in that case?
Yeah, so this is a lot. All this is being discussed in the Talmud in Halacha regarding.
That's her dowry. She doesn't have a father to give her dowry. Her land is dowry.
Yeah. So now that passes on, and they got more land than anybody else.
That's a dowry. Good business.
They get married right away.
Yeah,
Within 50 years.
there's a lot of discussion
They're so smart to ask about that.
in regarding the idea. Now, one of the things which is brought down in the commentary is something interesting. The proof, first of all, that we know that they were looking for the land and not for their own right, is why they're coming now. Meaning to say, there was other opportunities for them to come and ask for their father's share. You remember when they left Mitzrayim, when they crossed the sea, so there was the booty, they call it, which was the sea spit out. So apparently there's a whole discussion who took it, and it was also divided. It was also divided according to the tribes, and they did not come there. and this shows that they weren't interested for personal gain. But mainly what I saw is, which is brought down in the Chasam Sofer, and this I'm going to share with you right now. The Chasam Sofer says the following. It says in the verse that they came and they stood before Moshe and before Elazar. What is the idea that it stood before Elazar? So Rashi says that who is the priest? Elazar. And the fact that it says that they stood before Elazar, this tells you clearly that that story happened on the 40th year after the Exodus, which means after the death of Aaron. Aaron died and Elazar is a tribe. Now what happened after Aaron's death, we're going to come later in Chumash Dvorim, the Torah tells us that, remember that the Jews were protected with clouds? It's called the clouds of glory. We discussed it a few weeks ago. We basically took care of their clothing, but it was also taking care of their direction, how to get to the land, and it was like clearing the road for them. There was a lot of accomplishments which took place because of the clouds, to the point that they are called clouds of glory. And every year we have a holiday called Sukkot, which is to commemorate those clouds, the way God protected us. Those clouds disappeared after Aaron's death. Just like the water disappeared after Miriam's death, those clouds disappeared after Aaron's death. What happened when those clouds disappeared is they're about to enter the land. They are standing hora or very close. There's again yet another crisis among the people. Let's go back to Egypt. Let's go back to Egypt. They felt very lost. Matter of fact, they walked back, as the Torah calculates, 8 of the 42 stops, which is mentioned, making their way to the land, is where they now reversed and traveled all the way back to that stop 8 stops ago, which was a long way. Jews wanted to go back. The Levites were chasing after them. You can't do it now. They're almost there. Enough with this rebellions against God. The Levites actually, as we see also by the sin of the golden calf, the Levites killed some of those people who ran back. But by the nation, by the people who see the clouds disappearing, there was a crisis. There was a breakdown. We are getting stuck again. We lost our protection. And it is at that very same time that those girls get up and say what? Give us our share in the land. They stood up against the stream. They stood up against where the people were positioning themselves. The people were saying, it's over. We're going back to Egypt. There's no land, there's no Israel, there's nothing going on. There is when they stand up and say, no, we want to have our share. And when they got up there and screamed and begged for a share in the land, they reminded everyone, they became the source of inspiration to the entire congregation that there is hope and there is a future and we should never give it up. We are looking to get to Israel. We are looking to get to the land. In other words, if you wonder, were they thinking real estate or they were thinking Israel? If they would have been thinking real estate, this is not the time to discuss real estate because everybody is moving back to Egypt. No one is thinking that this is going to be our place. But if you express your faith, your emunah, your trust and your bitachon in God, that this is going to be the land which was promised for you, is going to be given to you, you're going to inherit it, is when despite those challenges, they get up there, 5 unmarried girls, and say, no, we want to make sure our father gets his portion. That created a switch. That created like a turn by the people that suddenly someone is thinking about future. You know, we have this story, even in the Holocaust. Once I shared with you a whole story about Pesach. I don't know if some of you were not there. About this rabbi who was having a piece of matzah, and he didn't know like who is gonna get that piece. And there was a woman that got up there, and she said, you know, you should give it to my child, because I don't sent me us, but they are going. This is our future. And he looked at it and he thought to himself, future? Who thinks about future now? I believe we are only really discussing survival for the next 24 hours, 48 hours. And when he heard those encouraging words from this woman who spoke about the future for his son who was hiding together with you, gave him such a strong, powerful, inspirational, move that really kept him going till the end of the war, because he heard the word future. There is a future. There is someone to work for. There is someone, that we should invest in. He never thought there is such a concept called future. Who thinks about future? Who thinks about there is going to be something? We are hoping to survive today. What's going to happen tomorrow, nobody knows. But now you're investing in kids who are going to rebuild and continuity. Who talks about the storms? There's a fire burning. The whole thing is getting consumed. Let's try to save what we have now, for ourselves now, maybe, but not for a future. And it was such an inspiration how the story ends up. This man married that woman after the war, adopted the child. He felt she was his savior by reminding him the idea of future. And this is what the Torah tells us, according to some commentators, what happened to the daughters of Tzlafchad. Everybody is giving up. Everybody is running away. Nobody is interested because they see the clouds disappeared. Aaron died. Miriam died. Moshe is about to die. The whole thing is over. It was just, maybe a little fun for 40 years, but it's all coming to an end. And at that very moment, in other words, real estate was the excuse. What really was the expression here was the fact that they liked the land. They loved the land. The same story which we have regarding the spies, you remember? I'm sorry, by the golden calf. They also didn't participate in women. Yeah. So the truth is that when you wonder why was it that Moshe forgot the halacha? How come they forgot? Why didn't know?
You just explained it.
Why did Moshe forgot? I didn't explain. I explained why did they express their desire? But why did Moshe forget? And really, this is going to lead us to understand how powerful is the story of this group of girls, the daughters of Tzlafchad. This is not the first time Moshe forgets something.
Did he forgot in the last part?
Last Parsha. Very good. You see, David has good memory. He remembers from last Parsha to this Parsha.
Because it's carried over into this part.
Very good. What happened last Parsha? Last Parsha, there was the famous story of leader of a tribe with the name of Zimri, who was acting in a very desecrating manner by being together with Cosby, the daughter of Tzur. And then is when Pinchas, Zimri, according to the Medrash, Zimri comes over to Moshe, together with Cosby, okay? Cosby is together along with them. This is the leader of the tribe, together with this woman who is a Midianite woman. In the Jewish camp, comes just in front of the Rebbe, the Moshe. And he says, Moshe, I have a shaila. Oh, what's the shaila? He thought maybe he wants to convert her. No, he says, Moshe, this lady, this Midianite, is kosher or not? And if you tell me not, how did you marry just was daughter? And what does Moshe do? Garnished. He doesn't respond. He doesn't respond. I mean, what should he respond? If he tells them it's not kosher, then Israel's daughter. Kosher, but it's not kosher. How can you say kosher? So he's quiet, right? He doesn't know what to say. What happens at that moment? He doesn't know what to say. He already taught people what to do in such a case. But suddenly he doesn't know. Comes this man, Pinchas, family member from the Kohanim, and saves the situation. And he tells Moshe, what do you see? You forgot? You forgot? You taught us that zealous people should take care of their business. Let's kill him. Moshe says, kill him. You said it, you do it. Two cases, one Parsha after another, there is something here which happens to Moshe. He doesn't act on the halacha last week, and somehow he forgets the halacha this week. Ma kore po? What epis tutzach? Something is going on over here. The Rebbe in a Tzicha discussed it once, and he said something very powerful, but at the same time very simple. You ever heard a term called shochad? The Torah says you should not take shochad. A judge is not allowed to take shochad. Shochad means bribery. Bribery. Somebody is nice to you, you can't become his judge anymore. Somebody did you a favor, somebody gave you, obviously they gave you money. Anyone, but even for some rabbis, even if they got a special good morning, and then that's it. They stopped. They were not involved in your verdicts. I can't. You are nice to me. That's it. You butt me up. In both of these cases, Moshe got the same idea of bribery. In both of these cases, Moshe became a man of interest, of personal interest. And this is exactly what the Torah wants to teach us. You can even be Moshe. You can be the greatest Jew on the face of earth. When you have personal investments, when you have personal gains, when you have a personal accomplishment in that matter, you can, God forbid, look away from the truth and make up things which are clearly not true. Let's analyze it for a second. Zimri comes to Moshe. Zimri is the head of the tribe who comes with this Gentile Midianite woman. What does he tell Moshe? Moshe, who gave you the hechsher, who made it kosher for you to marry Israel's daughter? That's it. He said 5 words. At this point, wherever Moshe is going to answer, he's not going to convince him anymore. If he tells them, it's okay, Cosby is okay, it's kosher for you, would you accept that Moshe really meant it? No. Zimri is going to respond to Moshe. It's kosher to me, just like Tzipporah is kosher to you. I mean, you're trying to make your wife kosher, so now you're making my story kosher too. You know you're wrong. So you obviously cannot say she's kosher, right? If he's going to say she's not kosher, again there's a problem with Moshe, because then it's going to become an embarrassment. They're going to tell Moshe, tell him it's not kosher, you do the same thing. You also have a Midianite woman. Go into a discussion that Tzipporah was before the Torah was given, and she converted, and here is already after the Torah was given. This is all, as they say, maisas. This is all discussions. Nobody is interested in discussions. People like to hear the bottom line. Kosher! Kosher? What do you mean just kosher? Because you have a wife like this, that's why it's kosher. Not kosher. So who told how do you do it? Anywhere Moshe turns is in trouble. Right? There's no way out of it. Same thing with the story with Tzlafchat. What is Tzlafchat's daughters? What do they say when they talk about their father? They put in 3 words, and that killed the whole story. That's why Moshe is not able to respond to that. Let's go back to what he said. 3 words. What are the 3 words? What are the 3 words? Look on verse 3 again. Avinu made Bamidbar. Our father died. Fine. He was not among the assembly that was gathered against Hashem in the assembly of Korach. Mentioned Korach. Moshe cannot judge anymore. Who was Korach fighting against? He was the guy who fought against Moshe. Right? He was the one who created an assembly against Moshe. So when they get up there and say, our father, he died because of his sin. By the way, he wasn't in Korach's situation. The moment they said he was not in Korach's situation, this is bribery to Moshe. Oh, he's for my guys. He's not for my enemies. He's not for my opposition, right? He's from the good guys. That's it. He can't say a word. Can't say a word anymore. The Rabbi once said an amazing example from the Talmud on this concept. How much bribery can blind a person. Once a Yid came into the Rebbe and he told the Rebbe, complained about a certain rabbi in the community that is mainly interested, working for his own interests. He's not really caring for the community so much. And the Rebbe smiled and he says, you know what, that can happen. You're right. I know there's something like this can happen. And the Rebbe says, what's the proof it can happen? Because there's an interesting halacha. The halacha is brought in Rambam. You know, in the times when the temple took place, when the temple stood in Jerusalem, in order to establish a leap year, like this past year was a leap year with 2 Adars, so the court had to get together and consider whether there is enough reason to make a leap year. There were 2 people that the Talmud says, and brought down in the Rambam, cannot serve in that court because they each one have a personal interest. A king cannot join this discussion, and the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, cannot join the discussion. The king, says the Gemara, cannot get involved in this discussion. You know why? Because he likes a leap year. An additional month means another month of taxes. Right, David? So instead of getting 12 months of taxes, he's going to get 13 months of taxes. Why wouldn't he vote for a leap year? So therefore, the Gemara says that the Jewish king cannot be a part of the discussion regarding a leap year. Or as the Gemara says, that really he has to pay the soldiers, and you can only pay the soldiers at the end of the year. He used to pay the soldiers at the end of the year, but if he has an additional month, then he can delay his payment with another month. So again, he wants to keep the cash in the bank, meantime he draws interest for his own gain. So there's all these reasons that a king cannot be involved in the discussion. What about the Kohen Gadol? What's wrong with the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, being involved in the discussion of whether or not to make a leap year? You know what the Gemara says? The Kohen Gadol is interested that Yom Kippur should fall out in September and not in October. You know, this year Yom Kippur is going to be October because of the leap year. If it wouldn't be a leap year, Yom Kippur would be in September. What's the Kohen Gadol's interest? Because on Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol has to go 5 times to the mikveh. The mikveh was not hot water. The mikveh was cold water. In October, it's colder than September. That's in the Gemara. So he is interested not to have a leap year, so Yom Kippur should not get pushed off later into the winter. Now think about it a second, the Rebbe said. Who are we talking about? Kohen Gadol, the holiest man of the Jewish people, who is involved in Yom Kippur in the holiest service of entering the Holy of Holies, meeting God on the highest possible capacity which can ever exist. And what is his concern? A cold mikveh versus a hot mikveh. And for that, he's not going to keep an honest, 100% honest opinion. Why? Because it affects his personal life. His personal life. Even something gets involved and something gets connected with your personal life, you become bribed and you become blinded and you can't think honestly. And God forbid, as the discussion of the Rebbe said, that's exactly what happened to Moshe. The daughters of Tzlofchad are coming to him and they say, Moshe, our father. By the way, that father has nothing to do with Korach. Boom. That's it. Now it's personal. Israel's daughter is allowed to you. Boom. It became personal. So Moshe is lost. He cannot say anything. Why did they mention it? Then the question becomes the other thing. What was the interest of Tzlofchad's daughter? Why did they make it hard for Moshe to answer? What's their point? There's all kinds of explanations. All kinds of explanations. Every commentary you're going to see in this week's Parsha, every article you're going to read about Tzlofchad's daughter, I'm sure you're going to find an insight. But the Rebbe says the following. Tzlofchad's daughters knew that God promised every person who walked out of Egypt to go into the land. That's what it says. I'm going to take you out, redeem you, rescue you, take you to me as a nation, and bring you to the land of Israel where you're going to inherit it. He dies. He only has daughters. What's going to happen with God's promise? Their father got a promise. Their father was there. This is exactly the story of Tzlofchad's daughters. They are tricking Moshe, they're putting Moshe in a position in order to make sure that whatever God said is going to be materialized. Their belief in God was so strong that they couldn't think anything different than having their father inheriting a share in the land of Israel. It's going to be on the price of making Moshe, confused. Whatever price it is, God's order and command has to be materialized. The truth is, this is what their father did. Their father, the story of the chopping of the wood in the desert, you know why he did it? As an example. In other words, he did something which wasn't completely kosher, but he wanted to prove to the Jews after the sin of the golden calf that still there is a punishment for God still considers us his people, and if you don't keep Shabbos, you're getting punished. Nobody knew. Maybe God gave up on us. He doesn't care. You do Shabbos, you don't do Shabbos. The heck with you. No. So he put himself on the line, desecrated Shabbos, knowing that this is going to be, there's going to be consequences for that behavior, But at the same time, everybody else is going to know that Shabbos is still Shabbos, and God wants us to keep Shabbos because He wants us to keep Shabbos, and that exactly proves that message. His daughters are following the same thing. They're putting Moshe in a situation. So he cannot respond. He has to go back to God. And their complaint is, we want to make sure that if God said something, this is taking place. And if God says that those who leave Mitzrayim are going to get Hashem in the land of Israel, we're going to prove you that this is true. God's word takes and occurs and happens 100%. Nothing is getting dismissed. And that's what they did. This is the power of this woman. And as the Medrash always says, it was the woman that we left Egypt because of them, and it was the woman that we're going to come out of this gullus. And this all starts with this very same story here, Mitzlavcha, the before by the golden calf. They didn't give up their gold. It was the men who gave up their gold. So all of you ladies who are here, keep up the good work. All of you men over here, let's realize that we have to support our wives and women so they should be able to continue with the mission and the journey to bring Mashiach speedily in our days. Amen. Any questions?